So here we are in Charlotte with New York Times best-selling and NAACP Image Award-winning author Omar Tyree with 20 years experience in the publishing industry, and you're back.
Yeah, it's 23 years, and some people think I'm only 23 years old, so you know, I've been out here a long time, man, and I'm still doing it.
Still doing it. So tell us, how did you get started writing in the first place?
Wow. I was born and raised in West Philadelphia like Will Smith, and I was the oldest grandchild, and my mother was the oldest of 8, and my father was the oldest of 4. So I had a whole lot of aunts and uncles who were older than me, and when you're the young person around that many older people, you get to experience a whole lot of older stuff. And so I was a young dude that was around a whole lot of adult content, and so I was around stories all the time because they constantly were telling stories and getting in trouble and doing stuff, and I was there as a young nephew with the big ears. And I had 2 uncles, Monte and Andre, and they loved going to the movies. And so what they would do, my mom being the oldest, she was already a college graduate, had money and all of that, and they would ask her, say, look, we will, babysit the nephew, and we want to go to the movies, give us some money and we'll take him to the movies. And so I used to go to the Capitol Center in West Philadelphia on 52nd Street, and we walk up this avenue called Lancaster Avenue in West Philadelphia. And my uncle Andre, who was older than Monte, he was the younger one, he would talk about everybody he saw. Hey, she looked like Wino, that looked like so-and-so. He's making jokes and stuff the whole time. And then Mac, the younger uncle, he would, just laugh at it and play off of it. And I'm listening to this thing the whole time, and I'm talking about it's like a 40-minute walk. So I'm listening to my uncle, and then we go in a theater, and it's like kung fu pictures. They always like these martial arts. This is the 70s. And so I'm in there listening to all these kung fu pictures. I come out, I memorize the whole script. I'm doing the kung fu moves, chopping and cutting and stuff. And then I'm doing certain scenes, and my uncles are like, he didn't memorize the whole movie. And then on the way back, they did the same thing. They talking about every person we passed. And so my knack for listening and being around stories was really sharp. And I didn't really recognize it until I got to like high school years, and I started doing movie marathons where I go into movies and pay for one, and you see like 3 and 4 films, and my friends didn't have that attention span. They were like, dude, I'm not sitting in the theater. But I was used to sitting in there waiting and watching and getting around stories for that long. I had that type of attention span. And so once I got to the college level and they asked us to write samples of who we were, where we come from, things we like to do, hobbies and that kind of thing, that's when I really got to see that, hey man, I'm good at this storytelling thing. But it was something that started way early on in my life in West Philadelphia. The Urban Literacy Project was based on, so many women read my work and a whole lot of guys, they don't read anything. And it was starting to bother me because I'm a guy, I'm a regular guy. I play sports, I'm into boxing, I'm in sports, I love women. So it's like, I'm not like, some soft guy. So I'm as rough as they come. And so I'm thinking, look, man, we need to get more of these guys who understand what literacy is. And so I came up with the 5 key components: reading, writing, thinking, visualization, and application. And we use all 5 of those skills every single day. And so I wanted to, create a program, nonprofit, really to go after urban boys, because if you look at it, African American and Latino boys are still the slowest readers because they just don't want to read, and their mothers allow them to do that, their parents allow them to do that. And so I try to create a program where I, specialize in going after these guys and say, look, this is very important, not just for the guys, but for the girls too who don't like to read. Well, All Access is the first mainstream book that I've written since Pecking Order back in 2008. And I wasn't feeling a lot of this work that was coming out from African American content. A lot of it was over-sexualized, or they were still talking about the hood and everything they came out with. I didn't want to be a part of that, so I really started focusing more on films. But this project here, we're in 2015, so it's been 7-8 years, and I finally sat down and said, this whole reality show stuff, this whole social media stuff, this whole celebrity assassinations where they attacking people, with social media, I said, this is ridiculous. But people are giving up their private lives like that to be celebrities. And so they got cameras following. I'm thinking, are you crazy? You got cameras following you around your regular everyday stuff, and they're putting stuff out there that we would have never did in the 70s. And what are you doing? You want to fake to a certain degree, but you don't want them following the ugly parts of your life. And so I'm looking at this now like, this is crazy, man. If you really want to have, people giving all access to your life. And so I came up with this perfect storyline where a woman interviews a guy who's crazy out there, getting involved in all kind of crazy stuff. And he invites her out to, follow him in his real life. And he says, well, if you really want to know what my life is like, you need to be around. And so once she gets involved in hanging out with him, she gets involved in all the crazy stuff that he's involved in. And she has a family, a husband, 2 kids in school. And so when that stuff starts hitting her home, she's like, yo, this is crazy. Now, I started off, for people that don't know, I started off with Mars Productions. I was in my early 20s, put out my own books, and coming out to Howard University, I had my own journalism degree. And at that point, in the 1990s, they weren't publishing a whole lot of books from African Americans. I was like 22 years old, and so they were like, what do you know to write a book? But I told you, my friends challenged me to write a book, so I wrote books early, and then I wasn't going to sit around waiting, to put my books out. I'd already had a degree in journalism from Howard. I was publishing newspaper articles all over. I already had a name. I was in my young 20s, and the people in DC knew me because I wrote so many news articles. And so I said, look, I'm not going to wait around for somebody to publish me. And so I started my own company, Mars Productions. I put out my first 3 books, which included Colored on White Campus, Fly Girl, and a book called Capital City about DC when they call it the murder capital. I was right there in DC. And so I put out those 3 books, distributed them myself, did deals with booksellers and distributors, and then I was known up and down the East Coast. And so that's how I ended up getting a bigger deal with Simon & Schuster. And so now, when the book started getting into, 2000s, into the sex thing, and all these new self-published authors started coming out with the hood books, the publishers, they started losing money. They weren't putting out the big money that I used to get in the 1990s when I first signed with Simon & Schuster. They didn't want to do a lot of the different marketing things that I wanted. So when I came back, I said, you know what? They're not giving out the money. They're not marketing. Now I'm competing with a lot of books that they think is going to be the top sellers. They don't want to do books that are going in a new direction. So I said, you know what? I know all the bookstores. I know all the distributors. People know who I am now. I'm a New York Times, but why am I going back to them anyway? At this point, it's about me going ahead and imposing my own creative will on the community and starting my own thing.
So now you have a national book tour coming up.
26 cities, man. It's like the most I did was like 14 with Simon & Schuster. But I haven't been touring since like 2008 with the Pecking Order book. And so I said, I really want to go out there and reconnect with the people. And a lot of times people are talking about the whole social media stuff and all that. But if you can see me and get a book signed and take a picture, then that increases social media. And I'm going to have a backdrop. So everywhere I do an event this year, I'm going to have my Omar Tyree, the OTI, the Fly Girl thing, all in the back of me. So you're going to take pictures in front of that. Then you're going to put it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And so I said, look, man, let me get back out there with the people. Let them know I'm still here. Let them know I'm still handsome and still vibrant and still doing this thing. And they're going to take new pictures, and that increases your marketing. I started doing the whole Omar Tyree Speaks way back in the 1990s when I had my website. And I had a whole lot of comments to say about touring and new books and things I was doing, but I wouldn't do like 200 words. I would write like 1,000 words. So I'm still working on being brief, because this whole blog thing that people, 200 words, I've never written 200. That's like a quick summary for me. I'm a real writer, so I gotta tighten up the Omar Speaks, but it's really a blog. I started that in the 1990s. I stopped doing it for a while because it's really tedious to keep, giving people updates. And so I had to give credit where credit is due with a whole lot of social media people. They have tenacity to keep updating and updating. I get tired, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna do that only 1 week or maybe every other week, because it's tiring to keep giving updates like that, particularly when you're writing 1,000 words instead of 200 words. But that's what Omar Speaks says. I used to do it in the 1990s, and I'm bringing it back again just to give you a piece of what's going on in my world.
Everyone talks about this all the time. Talk about Fly Girl, the movie, the film, the stage plays. This is big. Everyone talks about Fly Girl.
It's been a long time coming, man. I'm talking about people been wanting that for a film for 20 years. But I actually wanted to do Leslie first. I have a book which I call an urban horror story out of New Orleans. Leslie's my favorite character of all my books, And that's what I wanted to do first, because I wanted to show people my versatility. We already know they love Fly Girl. We already know I know Philadelphia in the 1980s because I'm a child of the 1980s. But Leslie is a book that shows that, this dude can really write a story. outside of just where he grew up in Philadelphia, during his era in Philadelphia, went down to in New Orleans and studied that culture and came back with a story before Hurricane Katrina. And so I wanted to do that first, but you know, Hollywood called for Fly Girl, kept asking for it, and I had to figure out a way of getting in. And so Fly Girl gets me in, but I want people to know on this page on my website, I have plenty of different stories, plenty of different books. They haven't read all my stuff, and that kind of makes me feel like I'm a one-hit wonder or something, you know what I mean? But if you read the rest of the content I have, I got movies for days. The Storytellers University is just like a camp or retreat for a weekend where I can really give them the one-on-one of how you tell stories in a group setting where it's, you know, a couple hundred people or whatever, and they get to hang out with me and go through classes and all that kind of thing. Something cool. We can even go to the islands one time, to Jamaica, the Bahamas, or something like that. And so it's something that you think about and say, what if we could do this on a bigger scale for people who want to know or learn how to do what I do? And that's not just writing, you know, books, but it's writing screenplays, even doing interviews for jobs, knowing how to tell a story about you. And so I want to teach them all those different things to become comfortable in telling stories.
So you have a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience. You also do consultations too, personal consultations?
Yeah. Year after year, you know, I have people that ask me the same questions about publishing. And I'm talking about, I've been in publishing for 23 years, so yeah, after a while, I'm like, look. And so I made a list of the different things that you have to think about in publishing, and then I had a master's degree of the things that I really want to hold back. And so I said, look, I can't give all people this free knowledge. And so I have a free page for consultation, and then after that, you have to at least pay a fee to say that you respect my experience and all the knowledge that I have. And so now I have 44 clients that I've racked up since 2008, because you get a lot of people who play with it. Now, if I could do it for free, I would have had 1,000 clients, but only 44 people were serious. So I said, look, it's not a lot of money, but you're gonna pay me for what I know and what I'm giving you. And that includes agents, marketing ideas, editors, you know, distributors and bookstores, all the stuff that I've acquired in 23 years. I'm not just going to give it to you for free. And so the consultation is a thing where, you know, for people who are serious, I can consult, and I've been doing that for the last 7 years, and I will continue to do that. But you got to understand that you take me seriously, because I take myself seriously. So it's definitely going to be a fee. Only 4 key components to all business. Number 1 is love. You know, most people who, you know, make a career out of what they do, they love what they do. We're passionate about it. And so I said, if you're not passionate about what you do, it's just a job. You're just checking in, checking out to get some money. But when you have a career and a profession and you love it, you're good at it, you put your all into it. And so I said, that's the first component that all of you guys want to execute when you're thinking about what you want to do for a living. Number 2, the art component. I'm an artist because I'm good as a writer. You can be an artist as a musician because you're good at music. You can be an artist as a broadcast major because you're good at what you do for television. You can't be an artist unless you're good. And so art is about competition. How good are you at your profession, at your career? And so I tell these people, you have to be competitive. It's not just being one of, how can you be the best? And when you can be the best, your value goes up. Now you can charge people more. You know, now instead of you making, you know, $20,000 a year in broadcasting, you making $100 a year. You get on ESPN as one of the major sports people, you making $2 million a year. But it's all about how good you are. And so you want to be an artist. So that's number 1 and 2, love what you do, become an artist at it. Number 3 is support. You know, if nobody supports what you're doing because they don't like you or they don't know you, you're not going to make any money. And so then it becomes a hobby. And so to get away from a hobby, you have to get people to put their money where their mouth is and support you with dollars and cents. Okay, and that's all business. You get people to support you. That means marketing, advertising, pushing your name out there, smiling, passing out business cards, all the things you have to do, interviews, to get people to like you, social media now, that's what you have to do. And then you multiply how much you love what you do, how good you are at it, times how many people support you. And then that equals your 4th component, business. That's how it works. You love what you love, you become good at what you do, and you get 1,000, 10,000, a million people to support you with $5, $10, $20, that equals your business. Now, once you have the business, you have to reinvest. And the problem that a lot of people have, they build a business, then they spend the money somewhere else and never put money back into love, never put money back into art, never put money back in the support that they got, and so their business falls apart. And so it's a big circle. Once you get the business, you got to go back to the love, go back to the art, go back to the support, you get more business.
So what is next for Omar Tyree?
Oh man, outside of selling a whole bunch of books, I want to keep doing movies. You know, I want to keep writing books. This OTI thing now, instead of just me doing fiction, I want to start doing more autobiographies. Last year I did the autobiography of Marion Barry, you know, the mayor of Washington, D.C. I now have an outline for Cicely Tyson. I have an outline for Chris Brown. I have an outline for Floyd Mayweather Jr. I have an outline for Bones, Stugs, and Harmony. And so I now want to start doing, you know, books for other individuals. I always want to do Allen Iverson's book forever. You know, him being in Philadelphia, me being from Philly, I wanted that book forever. And so with OTI, now I can go to them and say, I'll give you this amount of money to write your book and to publish your book. But once I get all access out with OTI and I really show them what I'm capable of on the hustle to, and as far as understanding the publishing business, then I can get some of those guys to sign up with me. And so it's a lot of things I want to do, but outside of that, you know, making more movies, making more deals, but I definitely want to go back into publishing, and that's why I'm here now, to make sure that you know that, you know, Omar's back, and I'm here to stay. Omar Tyree returns, baby. All access, October, November, December. Get your copy and spread the word. So that's next up, and that's every day, that's all day. Omar Tyree returns.